Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. You'll notice the audio completely doesn't match the scenery, because we're going to be talking about how this basically killed this. More or less. Today I wanted to talk about Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. Why is it relevant to this channel? Why is it something that you should check out? And how it can essentially be played as something of, well, I guess you could say a kind of action RPG of sorts, more so than a, standard survival horror type of experience. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to Resident Evil Outbreak, this game in particular, I have to say, generally gave me more like proper kind of scare moments than basically the rest of the Resident Evil series combined. Like I've played a lot of survival horror games over the years. Anything from your amnesias to your whatever the hell that one was with where you're basically like somebody going through an Alaskan whaling ship or whatever. To most of the Resident Evil series and stuff like that, Silent Hills and whatnot. But it like this one in particular is one that I always end up coming back to just because of how shockingly good it was at inspiring dread. Which, I mean, calling a game dreadful is probably not the best way to start off a positive review of the thing, but I did want to talk about the things that made File 2 special, why I kind of didn't really get the sort of recognition it necessarily deserved from the get-go. And it kind of shot itself in the foot, to be completely honest. It's a game that honestly had every shot to succeed, and they just needed to be a little bit more patient with it. So let's go ahead and explain that real quick. So, in premise, what Resident Evil Outbreak is it's Monster Hunter in reverse. It's basically the same format where you've got a bunch of rooms essentially broken up in, well, you have a larger area broken up into sort of room-sized segments that allowed them to put in more detail while pretending to be a bigger open world, Except instead of running around, the sides of hallways and stuff like that, in this particular case, you would end up going from room to room and stuff like that, or up a ladder or what have you. Again, a lot of the stuff that Monster Hunter did too. Now, that said, sorry if there's a bunch of random cuts over the course of this thing. I'm currently getting over a cold. Anyway, now, all of that said, the thing that this does uniquely is that it's basically like a sort of reactive puzzle box of sorts. So, Outbreak is essentially what if Resident Evil, but doing the Monster Hunter thing, but also, essentially, it's kind of like a freeform, almost multiplayer kind of squad-based thing. Now, the multiplayer part is fun, don't get me wrong. I recently got a chance to try the multiplayer for the first time, and this whole last week I've consistently been able to pop on, find a game, and whatever else. Also, in an effort to try to save space on the Steam Deck, I tried moving all of that stuff back to my SD card, which for some reason messed up the Japanese version. I don't really know why that's not working right now. Anyway. So that's kind of out of the picture for this second, so we're going back to my North American copy here. And yeah, let's go ahead and discuss this a little bit. So, the first Resident Evil Outbreak, I want to point out, did reasonably well. It did unexpectedly well at the time, selling something to the tune of 1.5 million copies, whereas File 2 ended up selling about 200,000 copies. Now, the reason, obviously, like, when it comes to a sequel, you're going to see sales go down, but that stark of a difference is nothing short of an indictment on the first game. And in fact, a lot of what I say about these games may well come as either a dire warning to stay away, or exactly the kind of thing you're looking for. So, bear in mind that there's many things here that'll be a little bit, subjective, but at the same time, I feel like when it comes to many of the weird games on this channel, many of the weird details we appreciate, especially when it comes to immersive elements and stuff like that, I feel like most of the community tends to see relatively eye to eye, or can at least appreciate some of the weirdness that can be appreciated here, right? So, let's go ahead and discuss this if I can stop dying of my freaking cold. It's funny when you're trying to get a video out because you know for a fact you won't have a voice tomorrow. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. So, the Outbreak formula, essentially, like I said earlier, is going to be a series of puzzle boxes. Now, these are going to be broken up into 5 scenarios, as they called them, per file here, or per one of the Outbreak games. In my personal opinion, it's really only worth playing the second one at this point, because all of the cool stuff that you can get from the first one, you basically already have here in a different form. Like, did you want to go fight the bosses? All of them are going to be showing up in the showdown mode. Did you want to see some of the scenario, like maps and stuff like that? They're going to be showing up in the elimination mode. The thing that you don't have to deal with is their annoying gimmicks, because, look, they had a lot of really cool ideas when it came to these scenarios. Um, the thing is, every one of these scenarios is kind of like a biome from Monster Hunter, right? It's just going to be a big area that has certain doors, that has certain locations, certain things to interact with, and whatever else. The thing is, in this case, that you would have to find ways to get past a lot of those obstacles, but every difficulty that you select in this game completely changes the way that the level functions. As a bit of an example, let's talk about the zoo. Like, let's say you go in there on easy, you are ridiculously well armed to the point that you probably started the whole thing in Texas. You basically can just blow everything away, there's very few animals roaming around, most of the doors are open. Realistically, you find a couple of things, pop them in a couple of holes, fight a boss, and you're done, right? In the second one, the normal mode, like, the normal difficulty is as high as you can actually select it on a first playthrough. That's actually one thing I want to address right away. As far as the difficulty for this game is concerned, a lot of times people judge their opinions based off of watching somebody play, like, Very Hard Nightmare or something like that on this thing. And yeah, those modes are crazy difficult. You cannot access those until, like, New Game Plus Plus. If you want Nightmare, it's like probably New Game Plus 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 at that point. So, like, you have to be very, very far into the game to even unlock those modes. Right from the get-go, you have access to easy and you have normal. And normal is kind of the sort of expected, like, you could reasonably expect somebody to go into the scenario, figure out all the puzzles, and escape on a first or second attempt, okay? You have hints that are labeled out for you in a very obvious manner. They're going to be pretty much in your face about most things. You're going to have enough resources. Enemies are relatively scarce. Like on normal, let's say, this section of the map right here is a little walkway in the zoo that's like a little kind of mountain path up to a hunting lodge that you need to get past at one point. Now, on easy, there's just like there's like, I think, a hyena running around, and that's about it. On normal, you have a couple of hyenas and a bird, and reasonably you can deal with those without too much issue. You really only need to make one visit to that cabin, and you can immediately go into the office, you can immediately get the power turned on to the whole place, you can immediately go and trap the elephant that's chasing you around the map, and at that point you can just go get your missing puzzle pieces and escape. So it's reasonably possible to go and figure this stuff out. On hard mode is when they already expect you to know the layout of the place. So, for example, you try to open the office, it needs a key now. You try to open the previous path that you took to get to the office, it's locked now unless you are, for example, running somebody that has the spare firepower to blow down the door, or happens to have a lockpick. So you have to take a different, more dangerous route in order to get there. Additionally, this means that you potentially might end up encountering the elephant more directly, much more quickly. Additionally, your weapons are also completely different, because not only does every difficulty change the layouts of items, it kind of does it in a similar manner to a lot of board games and stuff. And specifically, the thing that comes to mind is Betrayal on House of the Hill in this, where every difficulty introduces a new layer of complexity to everything that you're running into. So you beat it on normal, relatively easy, you then get to this one, and hey, instead of your normal starting pistol nearby a table, you'll find that there's a revolver instead. Okay, that's weird. It no longer uses handgun bullets. It instead needs revolver speed loaders. You don't know where those things are, you don't know how this thing works, and those 6 shots in that shitty revolver is not enough to even down a zombie, so what's the point? And so you find yourself in a position where now, instead of thinking of weapons as a way to constantly defend yourself, instead they become a puzzle tool in and of themselves, where now you're expected to start figuring out things like how your melee combat works, how your dodges work, how to actively fight things. Like if you're playing as Mark, he's the security guard guy, like you might regularly figure out how to parry zombies with your fists. That's just a thing you can do. If you're playing Alyssa, you might figure out how to use her dodge to squeak past enemies. If you are playing somebody like Kevin there, you might figure out to use your kick to go prevent allies from getting attacked and stuff like that. So at that point you're getting more used to your character's abilities, because each character you play in this game is kind of like the weapon sets from Monster Hunter, right? where every one of them is going to have different move sets. They're going to have different effectiveness versus different things. And so instead of now all of a sudden being like, oh, here is handgun, it is basic weapon, here is shotgun, it is advanced weapon, and there is hunting rifle, it is Bosco bye-bye weapon, instead it's like, okay, I have a pistol over there, it's got, one magazine in it, I've got this revolver over here with an extra speed loader available to me right here. If I keep the pistol around, maybe hand it to an ally, they might be able to hold off some zombies. If I pick up this revolver, I can maybe use it to go deal with the birds, because the birds are a lot harder to avoid than the zombies. So, we space away the zombies, we fire at the birds, and it's going to be more than enough to keep the birds at bay. But the way that the keys, the weapons, everything else are relocated is really fun. Like in Underbelly here. We're going to show off the normal difficulty just to show how this goes today. But like on hard, your regular pistol is replaced with an upgraded Glock, which is pretty darn nifty. It's got a higher ammo capacity and stuff like that. And additionally, you find a magazine for it pretty early on. It's worth mentioning at this point that most items are relatively set, but there is some randomization to some items, meaning that this game is actually really good at messing with your head, especially when jumping between, because sometimes you'll have additional resources in one direction or another, other times you just simply won't. Other times your AI companions will move stuff around without you knowing, so there's a constant, just like, constantly questioning yourself when it comes to where your puzzle pieces are in these different scenarios. I also want to point out that one of the reputations that this game has is for relatively dumb AI. However, the AI is actually more interested in doing roleplay stuff than it is trying to play efficiently. So for one thing, they will never mess with your key items. They will occasionally start with one in their inventory, implying that they completed a puzzle for you, but they will never like abandon your key item somewhere. For another thing, key items, even if you do, let's say, let somebody get eaten and you don't want to enter that area, like if they were holding one of your key items, you can just go back and get another one because they are replaceable in this version. For another thing, one of the things you couldn't do in the original File 1 was move and shoot at the same time, which is very, very important. Because as far as the like movement and spacing and strategy and stuff like that of this game, being able to move and shoot allows you to essentially get into dangerous situations a bit more aggressively, allows you to potentially help out allies more consistently, allows you to get around corners without getting completely dunked on. Pretty darn regularly. So it means that there's a lot more kind of consistent movement. When you make a mistake, it's more so your fault rather than the game being janky. And going back to the previous example of those birds, things like birds and dogs have notoriously always been hard to hit in these games. And so, for example, being able to walk forward and basically auto-aim onto a bird is very, very, very useful. Again, allowing your weapons to seem more like tools and puzzle pieces rather than, just a shooty, bang-bang weapon. For the sake of context, very hard, okay? The highest difficulty that you can normally select, you can further modify it with something like Nightmare, which makes everything, I think, like 30% tougher or something. So in the case of very hard, that's basically full-blown, like, this is just the real world kind of scenarios. So, like, you go in, instead of finding a pistol next to you in the underbelly area, instead there's just a blood bag, an item that's basically trolling you because it's not really going to be useful until maybe the very end of the stage. You keep going and you find, like, okay, you find a pistol and it's broken. So you repair the pistol, it's got no ammo in it. You find a magazine laying on the floor later, it's got like 3 bullets in it. You find a can of bug spray, and if you started as David, this allows you to make an improvised flamethrower and stuff like that. So a lot of your weapons are improvised, a lot of your actions are improvised, and very hard expects you to think on your feet constantly. Anyways, let's talk about the kind of normal difficulty here today. So for this one, I think we'll go with David just to make it a little bit faster. Let's go with Type B for him. Let's go with a couple of allies here. Let's go with George as the first one. We'll probably go with Mark as the second. Now, one of the reasons that I said that this game is really, really good from a roleplay perspective is not only do you have these 8 characters that have different relationships with each other, you further have different NPCs from throughout these games and throughout a couple of others. Meaning that you have a lot more you have a lot more kind of options as far as your people go if you want to make some specific team, like you want to go in with a team like Umbrella Mercenaries or something. It gives you a lot of different options, so that's pretty darn neat. But additionally, as I was kind of alluding to there, all these characters have different relationships with each other, meaning that they will react to each other differently, and their AI will function differently depending on who you're playing as. As a bit of an example, recently I was doing a hard playthrough with Alyssa here, because I was trying to get better at using her dodge move for the online stuff, right? And so I ended up screwing that up, ended up getting knocked into danger, and was limping along. Because if you get knocked into danger, you just basically limp and you're just crawling along. A companion can come by, give you a boost on their shoulder and make you move a little bit faster, or can pull you up on your feet. But either way, how much they want to help depends on who they are. And there's specifically a setting in there for certain characters that'll actively try to get you killed if you are close to death. And so, for example, Jim really hates Alyssa. And so I completely forgot about this because I originally brought him along because on normal he carries a key to the subway, which is funny because I specifically brought her along to lockpick the door that he's supposed to open, and whatever. Anyway, point is, I was limping along on danger, walk into a room with a first aid spray, so it's basically like a full heal in this case. He runs up, uses it despite full health, and runs out of the room. So kind of a dick move. Walk into a second room that I knew that there was a green herb left behind. Walk in. He again walks in, uses the healing item, and leaves. Like, just to give you an idea, again, the AI loves to do this roleplay kind of stuff, and that's pretty darn funny in my opinion. Anyway, so depending on who likes who, and I do wish that they would have explained this a little bit better, you will have the AI doing different stuff. So if they particularly like somebody, they'll end up being very helpful. They'll end up constantly like kicking down a door to come help you. That's actually part of the reason that we brought George along, because he gets along with basically everyone. And so, for example, if you ask him for help and you're low on health, he'll kick down a door, he'll pull out his healing gun, and then he'll go and heal you up to full, and you're all good to go. It's like that's actually one of the stories that I was sharing in that first video, wherein was basically fighting a boss, got knocked into a critical plus a bleed, and he ended up removing the bleed, ended up healing the damage there, and took the hit instead. So, dude's a very helpful ally to have. But the thing is, again, they all have different relationships, and that's just really fun from a sort of team-building perspective, because you can come in with different people that will do different things. All right. So let's talk a few other features of this game here. So one of the things that they wanted to kind of make clear at the time is that they wanted people to communicate, but they wanted them to communicate using what's known as the ad-lib system. So
get a move on. Yes.
So like you basically issue quick commands using your analog sticks and different button combinations to actually give people. Now this does cause a little bit of janky dialogue every now and then, but it is still fairly cool to see, because they will occasionally follow your well, not occasionally. Depending on how much they like you, they'll follow your instructions or not. Also, it's worth mentioning that there is some soft randomization, as I mentioned earlier, to items. So sometimes items will be different, the answers to puzzles will be different, and in this case, let's see, ABRQ, IJ. So that's probably going to be 3. So 3, 1, 1, POG. 3, 1, 1, 9. Okay. So now we know that there's a drawer somewhere in the control room that has a password of 3119. And these will be somewhat randomized every time that you play through. Even if you know the codes ahead of time, you can't really go and do anything with them, so it is a little bit weird that they didn't offer people the ability to use voice chat back in the day, but if they ever do re-release it, I would expect that they probably would have that available. Anyway, so with your different AI companions, they will be potentially doing their own thing, or they will be following you along and helping you. It again depends entirely on their relationships. Come on. This means that sometimes they will make some very strange decisions, but again, this just kind of leads to the tension of this game as a whole. Now, I mentioned earlier that the weapon sets basically would be an equivalent to how these characters kind of function and whatnot, and this includes their weapon handling. Every character will actually handle weapons differently. They'll kind of carry themselves differently. They'll have different outputs with different types of tools. All of it's just based entirely on who the character is. Like a lot of the ladies in the team are on the smaller side and would have a bit of a harder time going and handling certain weapons. This guy over here is technically listed as a plumber, though realistically the way that he kind of carries himself, as well as the way that he's dressed in some of his alternate stuff here, as well as the way that he handles a gun, it's kind of heavily implied he might be a hitman. Anyway, So in that case, he's going to be relatively quick with firing. He's relatively quick while moving and firing. Whereas, let's say somebody like Yoko, who's basically like a little student girl, she ends up going and stuttering a little bit every time she tries to shoot. So like even using a pistol will end up making her shudder a bit. So this means that every character will be a bit different as far as all that stuff goes. Anyway, all these cuts for for coughs are going to be so annoying. It's okay. You'll notice as far as the difficulty goes, this is already like unnormal. This is already fairly easy as it is. Like we have enemies that are going to be popping up here and there, and you'll notice that they actually popped in from another location, and that's actually one of the big gimmicks of this game, that you can't actually kind of clear out areas, as it were. It's not exactly respawning, but it's more like enemies will regularly populate areas and then just kind of move from place to place. So like right now, this one's not currently active, but eventually that one will end up reanimating and coming and attacking somewhere. If you try to clear out certain areas, like let's say I mentioned those hyenas at the zoo earlier, you'll find that they end up coming back. Here we'll also go replace... what do we want to replace this with? Go ahead and leave some shots here. I think we'll swap over to the burst handgun after this one's used up. Anyways, right now we're just trying to get to the subway. Let's see, George. Where's he at? Did that zombie come back? Oh, yep. Also, this dude carries wrenches in order to be able to kneecap stuff. There we go. Are you done? Nope. Are you done now? Are you done now? Thank you. Anyway, so this has a very dynamic feeling, is the point here. And again, enemies can travel from place to place. There's very few actual safe areas to get into, and it feels very dynamic for that reason. Okay, so on the normal difficulty, again, this is as high as it gets in a first playthrough. You're given plenty of time to figure out what on earth you're supposed to be doing here. For the purpose of trying to keep this brief, this is basically going to be trying to separate this car from the one that's broken behind it. So we want to get out by some means or another. There's technically 2 escapes out of this stage, and so let's say we look over here, and we'll see that this thing is caved in from the back, right? So we can't get into this one. The roof collapsed, and we have to separate the train cars. In order to separate the train cars, decorative train connector, there's a hole in it. And if you're on normal, one of the first things you'll see is actually right up here. So we go over here, we use this key to open the door because it's an employee key that was just kind of sitting on the train. So that immediately tells you, okay, those doors that were locked earlier, you get a key to them. Now you can get in there no trouble. And we get to the employee passage. Now, this door instead wouldn't actually have a key on the harder difficulties. You'd have to break them down, which can be done a bunch of different ways, but for the time being, here, this guy wants to come up, and goodbye. So for the time being, the first room that we run into as soon as we open this door is going to be this control room right here. We already got the code to it earlier, so that looked like it was 3119, so we'll pop that sucker in right now. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this room is because it's an important room and it's in a central location, we'll see that they regularly will end up completely swarming this place. Oh, apparently it was 3119. Here. Whoops, that looked dirty. Anyway. Alright, are they done? I think my pistol's out, though. Are you done now? There we go. Alright. Let's take a look at that thing again. ABRQIJ. So ABRQIJ. Oh, CDT. Hold on. CDT. Oh, 3719. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, 3719. There we go. And I remember this being fairly useless in normal, just basic recovery medicine. Sure, I guess we don't need this anyway, and so we'll go ahead and get a move on. Now, one of the first things, again, that we see here is going to be some paperwork piled up, and they give us this hint right here that there's 2 emblems in order to disconnect the train. That the reason that this is relevant is because you can't actually disconnect them without figuring out how to using that particular thing. Anyways, we'll go ahead and... Do I want to replace this? I think so. Alright, just kind of mash buttons, get this guy off us real quick. Probably shouldn't have gone to replace this broom. Surprisingly, there was a logic to it. I wanted to replace the broom so that I could break this head off and basically make a spear. Technically, that other one that I had was already perfectly suitable for the job, but oh well. But every time that you're hearing that kind of bashing off in the background, that is zombies breaking into and out of different rooms. And this is, again, dynamic. So, for example, say there's certain doors that you want to break through, but you don't necessarily... Oh, I guess there wasn't anyone in here this time. But you don't necessarily know... you don't necessarily want to spend the time to go break it down as of just yet. You might instead find yourself in a position that you just have a zombie do it for you, you know? Let's go ahead and deal with this guy real quick. Because, yeah, on normal, you can reasonably clear them out for at least a little bit. So we'll just keep pushing him with his broom until it breaks. Beating this zombie in the foot. There we go. Perfect. Alright, you done yet? Are you done now? Thank you. Alright. By the way, one very strange thing, just kind of bring this up, one very strange change that they actually made between the Japanese and North American versions, and part of the reason that I actually prefer playing the Japanese, or the North American version, they actually change how you make a spear for some reason. In that Japanese version, you specifically need a long pole. In the North American version, you need a broom handle. I'm not sure why of all oddly specific changes that was one of them, but oh well. Anywho, here, let's go ahead and request this from this guy, though. So that we can make a sledgehammer later. And he can take this recovery medicine.
Hey, you.
David!
Alright, dude, come on. Give me that stuff.
Hi.
There we go. There we go. Now, what we need is a hint, oddly enough. We need to find a note in order to go open a door. So obviously at this point, we're not exactly getting crazy overwhelmed or anything. There's some enemies around here or there, but it's nothing too nuts. One of our allies went and just decided to go do whatever. As Alyssa is wont to do, she is definitely more of a solo sort. And so, either way, George wants to help, so he's going to stick around. Also, looks like Miss is going to be the password that we need. Yeah, there's the item that you use to make a spear in the Japanese version. I specifically noted that one because on normal, when I was doing this video a couple of times, I'm like, hey, I could basically equip the entire party with spears pretty early on in this one. Whereas playing in the Japanese ones, like, you can make, like, one, and I thought I was losing my dang mind, because, like, I remember constantly breaking the broom in order to make a spear out of it. Like, that was a pretty fun mechanic, so how is that not working right now? But yeah, sure enough, oddly specific change there. Anyway, enter the combination, yes. And surprisingly, this is already about half of the scenario pretty close to done. So, essentially, all we got to do is get that train car up and running, and then so in order to do that, we need to get to the basement. The basement will have one of the emblems. To get to the emblems, let's go ahead and kneecap this guy. Kneecap this guy too. That lady from before is back. Stab that dude in the face. Spears are good. Anyway. So that's all three dealt with. Anyway. So, this Oh, excuse me. So this allows us to get access to a key that allows us to get to the basement. As soon as we get to the basement, we get access to a pipe. With that pipe, we use a valve on it in order to get rid of the water down there, which immediately gives us access to the broken part of the pipe. We just basically turn it back on, and I mean, that's most of the scenario already completed at that point. Because all you really have to do is separate the train car, fix the ventilation system, and fight a boss, and you're done here. So this tells you what key you need. So let's go ahead and use that. Also, I should probably point out that you'll notice that there's green text on screen every now and then. So there's what's known as the ad-lib system in this one. So when you're walking along, you can hit whatever button is relevant to your version, and it'll give you their kind of inner thoughts on the matter. Basically giving you some warnings, like they're mentioning that they really don't want to pick a fight down here in the tight hallways, which is pretty accurate. If you're playing as the character with a lockpick, it'll give you a general hint as far as how effective that lockpick currently is on that door, and a few other things. But for the time being, we need to go pick up a valve handle from over here and avoid that one room that was on the right at all possible costs. Anyway, one more quick cough break to it here. So, immediately right over here we already have what is basically going to be one of a few answers to the kind of a boss problem later. We can probably hand over the spear to our dude over here if we want to. We probably won't need shoddy shells, so we'll go ahead and request those to get to kind of keep, actually just keep this lighter, I think. We're going to leave the shoddy shells here because we have so much available firepower in this difficulty, we just straight up don't really need them. Apparently he decided to give us the recovery medicine instead. Alright, whatever, dude. Well, we're not really coming back here. Here, I must have requested the wrong item. Hold on. Give me that.
David.
And we're going to go ahead and show off another thing.
Hi.
So oftentimes, one of the criticisms this game gets is that the virus meter puts you on a strict timer and it's just not enough time. In the first Outbreak, I could see that being a complaint because it did go up faster. By the time we get to the second one, it is a lot more lenient to the point that you basically have like an hour in a scenario that lasts you like 15 to 30 minutes, so you're definitely more than good there. And yeah, so this gives you plenty of time to actually go and sort these situations out. Even on the higher difficulties, you're usually dying from getting pummeled a hell of a lot faster than you are from anything else. Now this must be where he picked up those handgun bullets from, because there's usually handgun bullets there, though sometimes it's other stuff. It's funny, there's a little bit of Resident Evil 3 flavor in that regard. Like I said, the whole moving and attacking thing, really good around corners. Let's go ahead and try to finish them off down there. Because it's just going to like automatically track to whatever's closest, so if you don't know what's around a corner because of a camera angle or something, they will automatically spin around to meet it. So like now we know one of those is coming back, and we're actually just going to go ahead and leave it there for the time being, because their health remains as it already kind of was there. So let's say you're in a position that that you're going into a room like right here, and we know that we're about to get chased down. We know that we're about to deal with zombies and stuff. I want to go ahead and leave their health relatively low so that I can just kind of knock them down and that's it. There's a surprising amount of tech to the way that you can deal with different zombies, and especially on higher difficulties, this becomes more and more relevant. But like the standard difficulty, you really have more than enough time to just approach the thing as a horror sandbox kind of thing. You are technically on a timer, and it's there to provide a little bit of pressure, but it really gets overblown. Additionally, as you've seen, the AI has tried to help. George isn't much of a fighter, so he hasn't really gone out of his way to do that. And we've regularly gotten attacked by different things. I think that was the guy that was potentially injured from earlier. Let's go ahead and...
Someone help me!
Alright, thank you. Alright, dude, George, chill. Thank you. I appreciate the help, but it's alright, buddy. Kneecap that one, kneecap that one. He only carries a few of these wrenches with him, but they're very, very good. Let's deal with this guy. Take that first aid, please.
Get a move on.
No.
Come on.
Go. Never underestimate the power of spear. Unshockingly, David's one of my favorites for having spear. Anyway, uh, George, dude, my guy, come over here.
Let's move it. No.
You stubborn bastard. Also, it's funny. Was playing this the other day. Wife was watching Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, there's no way this is not supposed to be Shepard from that show. Anyway, so let's go ahead and we're going to need the valve handle in a second, so we're going to leave the recovery medicine right there. But to give you an idea of different characters and their different interactions, the stuff that this guy uses to combine his weapons can also be used for fixing this. So depending on how much you've actually used, I think I might have actually used too much of the tape here. Can I... I might have used too much of the tape. Ah, shoot. Well, whatever, that's fine. You know what? Here, you...
Hey, you.
First of all, let's go ahead and leave the valve handle right here.
Hey, you.
David. Hey.
Since she's going to show up at the final boss anyway, and she's going to go off and do her own thing, we're actually just going to go ahead and do that. The valve handle right here. And we're going to go pick up the tape real quick. So we're going to go turn on the power, we're going to go pick up the tape, and then we should be good to go. I think... I forget exactly how this works. I think it's like if you haven't used his tape roll at all, you can just use it to immediately fix the pipe. I could have sworn it was a different amount on different difficulties, but apparently you do need the entire roll, so I guess there's that. Because the way that you actually fix it is literally to go find a roll. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is that being an escape room kind of thing, this thing is actually on several other kinds of timers, and this isn't unusual for scenarios in this one, where, for example, there's another subway coming, and there's also a flea invasion that comes out of the filtration system. So, we find out why there's fleas hanging out in the filtration system if we actually end up missing the subway to escape from here. Because you actually go through the ventilation tower, and there's just a bunch of them, they set up a hive in the thing. So as soon as you get the air functioning, in order to get the smoke out from the crashed subway, and as well as we are repairing the sprinkler system in order to put the fire out on said subway, we then essentially end up kind of more or less allowing all the events of the stage to collapse in on themselves. Because once the smoke starts taking over the stage, usually you would end up getting damaged at that point, see your virus meter going up pretty darn quickly. But you still have several minutes to go figure out, hey, you know, I read about that ventilation system. If I get the power on, that should sort that out. And then you realize, okay, the ventilation system did its thing, but the fire is still there. So to fix the sprinkler system, you have to go fix the pipe. In order to fix the pipe, you have to find the tape. In order to get to the tape, you got to have the power on. And in order to get the door to the tape opened, yes, we're doing all this rigmarole for some duct tape. In order to do all that, we have to go do another puzzle over here. Very quick. And basically we do that puzzle in order to open up the kind of security door kind of thing. What's over here in this difficulty? Just handgun rounds? You know what? Here, just replace it with that. Because we are eventually going to switch over to the burst handgun, which I left back in the subway car. Which I guess technically would be a lot more useful right now, but hey, the spear has done the job pretty darn well. So whatever, we'll just do this puzzle real quick. Would you like to operate the thingy? Yes, we need the 2 going over there, we need the 4 going over there because we need to make 10, and then we need the 9 going over there, and what a shocker, the super difficult puzzle is now solved. Have a wrench. She is not good at dodgeball. Alright. If I find another thingamadeal, then we'll be able to repair my spear. But for the time being, it is down to being a pole. So that's fine. Like, oh, it's just impossible to get all these, you know, different resources and whatnot. It's pretty darn doable, especially on normal. Like, this is really not bad at all. Here, we probably got knocked into yellow. No, we didn't, actually. Although we also don't need this key, so let's go ahead and use that. Delay the timer a little bit. Turning the power on caused this over here to open up, which again was all listed in notes that we could have read up to this point. Most of those notes are going to be in relatively safe areas and/or are short enough that you can just kind of read through them. Also, one thing I haven't mentioned as far as different characters go is you've got combos with this guy, which is fun. Anyway, there's some tape. Unfortunately, I can't use it to replenish my crafting tape, but oh well. Let's see, picked up some more bullets. In fact, actually, let me get those.
David! Hi.
Because we'll want them in a bit of a moment. So we've got that tape, we've got this. There's no knives here, unfortunately. But I ideally want him to pick up this. If I give him the Magnum...
David! Hi.
Actually, I wanted him to have the first aid spray anyway, so he already picked it up. We're good to go. Now then, as far as the remainder of the scenario, let's see, there's going to be some more zombies showing up below. I think I'm going to make a quick backtrack real quick, as if I did say quick enough times there, to go pick up that burst handgun that I left behind, in order to just use that a little bit, because otherwise we probably won't get to use it much this stage.
Let's move it.
No.
Also, it's just funny how he keeps refusing to come along. It's like, dude, do you really have much of a choice here? Alright, now I've made a ton of mistakes up to this point. Yep, here comes, it's the flea invasion. The big-ass fleas. They are here to give you, I don't know, the super rabies or something. I forget if fleas can give you rabies. I think that's ticks. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, there's fleas now. Bit of a problem. Bringing T-virus fleas. Now, those things are pretty difficult to fight, which is part of the reason that we're actually going to go into here to go pick up this burst handgun that I left behind. So, first of all, give me this thing. We're going to use it to leave this Magnum here. And one of the other reasons that I like using David is he typically will not try to steal all of your weapons. He is more of a healer than a fighter, so he doesn't really want to do that. However, if you, let's say, bring somebody like Jim along, he absolutely loves to kind of use up all your weapons, because he is, well, he's a bit of a coward. He loves to try to blow things away at the first opportunity. If you let Kevin get a hold of your handguns, you better believe your ammo is going to disappear. Whereas David is more of a melee fighter and will typically use most of those. But again, the kind of roleplay potential there is pretty cool. Alright. Alright, get off him real quick. Yeah, this thing has a burst fire function, but we're not going to use it very much. We also probably will not need the pistol very much after this, so... Yeah, there's the train that's coming in. So like I mentioned, a lot of stuff is on a bit of a timer. So at this point, since we've fast-tracked the story's events a little bit, we now are at a point that the place is about to start filling up with smoke. So we better get down there and get that filtration system up and running, and sprinkler system and stuff. So there we go. Probably should have reloaded this gun before entering this door, actually. But hopefully we'll be fine. We've got a few seconds. Additionally, another interesting aspect that I really love about this is the logistics of everything. So, like, for example, you noticed how we were loading everything bullet by bullet, right? So if you, let's say, wait a while, and you pick up a magazine along the way, you'll find yourself in a position that you can quick load certain weapons if you have the right magazines for them, which means that you potentially can be in a fight a lot more immediately, because obviously reloading in the middle of a boss fight is going to be a bit dangerous. So again, lots of kind of potential there for interesting gameplay. But this does mean that sometimes you'll just keep like half your inventory for a single weapon and stuff like that, and other times you'll just reload along the way, just kind of restock your weapons and keep boxes around to restock as you go. This is why I left certain supplies laying around all over the stage. Alright, that's a problem. Dude got himself poisoned. He is apparently feeling very useless. Alright. Fair enough. Now, part of the reason that I love the AI so much in this is because, obviously, look, they're not going out of their way to be efficient, but because they're all playing to their kind of particular archetype, as it were. This does mean that they're fairly predictable. It does mean that they're going to do fairly predictable things. Oh, whoops.
David!
Go ahead and burst fire this guy down. Yeah, this thing's burst function is only usable if you're kind of like hard aiming like this. not doing your move aim type situation. Now, I'm hoping he'll be fine, and we need that emblem over there, so we're going to use up the tape. We're going to use the empty space to go pick up that valve that we left in this room, use that valve to go open up the area, and then leave here with the emblem. So, we're going to need this right here. Get that done right there. Not sure what just happened there. Alright. Oh shoot, I'm out of wrenches. And I'm out of bullets. I need my knife. Right, that would be a real dumb way to die. Alright, dude, I'm gonna need you to help me out a little bit, though.
Come on. Damn, help me.
Alright, feeling relatively safe here, though, because if I fight these guys, he should come and help pick me up here. Doing these combos wrong. Now, another note on the AI is you'll note that Alyssa, who previously was not helping very much, now all of a sudden happens to be here and assisting. Because even if they hate you, oftentimes they will end up showing up to save you in single player. We do have a full heal on the stairs, so let's go. Actually, wait, you were carrying one too, so let me see that.
Hey!
Hi.
Thank you. Don't suppose you picked up a knife? No. Alright, whatever, we're good. Actually, wait, I can take those too.
Hey, you.
Hey!
Take bullet.
Hey,
Request
you.
that.
David,
Give me
hey.
those. And again, for what it's worth, they are trying. This obviously was way back, you know, like 20 years ago, so it's not exactly the most advanced AI in the world, but they will try to help you. They will try to do their best. And for what it's worth, again, we basically got saved here, courtesy of her deciding to show up at a critical moment, and they will do that all the time. If you get knocked down, you can bet your AIs will pretty much always end up kicking down the door to come save you. So we got the filtration system turned on at this point. That allows for accessing both emblems, allows for accessing the exit, and all the weapons that we need are already in the subway car. So like you notice that M4 laying down there in the subway, there's a reason we haven't touched that up to this point, because it's basically just an instant win button on the boss. Now, as a bit of a kind of closing note before we wrap this up here, when it comes to the scripting in the single-player version, this is obviously going to be a bit more scripted than the online version. Stuff's going to be generally a bit more stable. It's like the online version, the items are almost completely randomized, with stuff just popping up absolutely everywhere, whereas in the single-player, it's like partially randomized. Certain things will have certain different effects, but it's not going to be all the time. Ask her to use that. Hopefully we can get away with everybody here. Should be relatively safe. I'm going to pick up one full heal over here. See if David wants to carry that with him. But this is why I wanted that pistol, or why I wanted that pistol ammo here. Because these fleas are a major problem if you don't get the jump on them. Nice. Alright. So we don't need this valve handle anymore. Combine it with this.
Hey, you.
And you. He probably can survive that poison by the time that we end up leaving this area, so he'll be just fine. He magically gets cured of poison once the stage ends, so we don't have to worry about him dying. Anyway. Alright, so there's fleas friggin' everywhere. We left one heal in here, so I'm going to pop in real quick to pick that up, just in case we need it, because again, the fleas can be a bit of a problem. You don't necessarily need to fight through them, and in fact, I did this in kind of a weird order that made it so that we're more likely to have to fight through them. Actually, hold on, you could use this. So I'm probably not going to be repairing my spear here. There we go, you take that. I don't have any more repair... Well, we don't need any more repair tape. If you're playing as Mark, you can get out... this thing. I'm just going to carry it along so that we can heal him up. Crap. Yeah, you really want to stay away from these ones in particular. Also, you'll notice that as soon as you get bit, if they stick by you long enough, they jump off and they get all engorged and stuff, which means that they turn into the bigger ones, which do way more damage and everything. But oh well. Anyway, we've got this over here. Go ahead and combine them two. Is there still a green herb over here somewhere? Left bathroom should have something, which I think was a green herb, and if so, we can be completely back up to full. We don't need any recovery items for the boss, or at least we shouldn't. Yep, this is still a green herb, so we'll go ahead and combine these. Again, just remember where stuff is, and you'll be fine. Part of the fun of it being an escape room, you know? So, we now go down to the subway, and we're basically done here. So we have, again, realistically speaking, the AI will almost always, on normal difficulty, pick up that assault rifle magazine, and that's one of those interesting scripted moments where the AI knows how to help, depending on the kind of situation you're in. So like if you end up, let's say, in a position where you end up getting to the end of the stage and you didn't know what you were doing, again, on normal, they will almost always bring you that assault rifle magazine, and also they'll usually be carrying the assault rifle with them, but not using it. So this means that they'll usually end up just giving you the weapon that you need in order to actually complete the stage. Also, who's in a bit of a rough state, please use your medicine. Don't be stubborn about this. Should be that thing dealt with, and that's our pistol used up. We can pick up the shotty over here.
Come on.
No.
Right. You want to be stubborn? Be stubborn. Alright. Now, another kind of interesting Monster Hunter thing to bring up here is locational damage. So you'll notice occasionally we're hitting stuff in different locations, and you can actually fight bosses the same way, where certain things will result in different damage to different stuff. Now, in a weird omission, you can't blow legs off of zombies in this one in particular, which is weird because there are crawling zombies without legs. So maybe they just never got around to it or something.
Come on.
No.
But one thing that you'll see is, for example, with a boss that we're about to fight here, you can get to the very end of the stage and be completely invulnerable to attacks, hiding behind it and stuff. But realistically speaking, you will basically be doing no damage because its whole locational damage thing means that its butt takes almost nothing. But if you shoot it in the face, which is what the rifle's there for, you do quite a significant amount. Alright. So let's go this way, pop in these two items, and then somebody's going to get kidnapped. And that's all well and good. Here, you just go ahead and use that real quick. You go ahead and use these. Yep. Now the cars are separated, and now we get to go in. We'll ask Alyssa for that magazine. We'll pull up a rifle, and then we're all set to go. So we can just give her this shotgun. She can hopefully do some stuff with it. She is one of the more aggressive characters when it comes to fights, so that should be useful there. Here, this thing.
Hey.
Right, you take this shotty, because we will not be needing it. We'll take this rifle, because we will be needing it. And is there anything else left over here? Let's see, some pistol rounds. Oh yeah, the save function. I forgot. So, one of the things that also gets panned about this thing is like, oh, you have to complete this all in one run. No, you can save. Like, you can save just fine here. But we're not going to save it in this case, because we're fine, but just so you know, yeah, you can save at any time with one of the typewriters. Depending on your difficulty, there's a certain number of uses that you get. Also, unfortunately, it looks like he's kidnapping David first. He's been fleed! So yeah, there's a couple of bosses over the course of these different scenarios that'll kidnap somebody, and it's funny to me how when it comes to File 2, a lot of the scenarios end up repeating stuff that the first one did, but better. So, like, you had the moth in the first one that would end up potentially kidnapping somebody. But annoyingly, it would poison them and then wrap them against a wall, and if nobody had to use that room that particular turn, nobody may come to save them. And in this case, it's just the final boss. You know, they just kind of end up kidnapping somebody.
Let's move.
No.
And that's about it. So, she's going to refuse to follow, but that's perfectly fine. Hopefully she won't get bitten, because she's relatively fast. And we should be good to go. So again, the AI knows where to go, what to do. She ended up picking up some ammo for her weapon. They are, again, reasonably competent as far as AIs go. Like, I've seen some really dumb-as-hell AI. Honestly, I think Outbreak is unfairly panned for its AI. Like, it really does a lot more than it gets credit for. And since this is obviously, again, a kind of Monster Hunter-esque boss, we will see mechanics and stuff like that, these different things here. So we'll take care of his bugs. Pop in the face, reload real quick. Get out of the way of those roly-polies. Go all Scarface on his ass. And there we go, we're already done. Can just use the Magnum on the way out of here, and we're all set. Alright, you, go ahead and give me this. Don't need to be getting drunk right now. Okay, he did end up using it. So we should have just enough time to leave. And funnily enough, what it's saying right there about going and leaving, so there's actually a bunch of different interactions that can happen with the train tracks. So if you're standing on the train tracks when it gives you that first warning that a subway's coming in, you can get run over. If you're standing on these tracks when this one leaves, you can get run over. And additionally, if you, let's say, find yourself in a position that you don't make it to the train within like a minute or so, you actually get left behind. So if you get left behind, there's actually an alternative exit, and that's that ventilation tower I was mentioning earlier, because the key is basically attached to the back train car. So then you got to go all the way back down to the basement, you got to go through that ventilation area, and it's a whole thing. But it's fine. Like it's interesting. It's a interesting alternate route. I would show it, but honestly, it just takes so long.
It's hell above ground and hell below.
All right. So yeah, that's the entire scenario then. And that's typically how they go. With every one of these different scenarios, they will have different mechanics to them, but typically this is more or less how they go. Like they'll have 2 or 3 main story beats that you got to go and hit, and if you hit those, you're good. You're golden. Like that's just it. You move on, and you move on to the next one. You get some points for completing it, and then you spend those points on going and unlocking things. So that's all well and neat. So that's about that. So hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you'll give this game a shot at some point. Again, if you want to do the online component, you're going to want to look up the complete Resident Evil kind of a complete Resident Evil online thing. There's somebody that posted it onto Steam, and it will give you everything that you could possibly need in order to get started, like literally everything, including a 100% completed save file, so that you don't have to actually unlock anything. You have all the costumes, all the extra characters. If you wanted to run with, you know, an entire team made of just hunks, then you can do that right from the get-go. If you want to play online, you're good to go right from the get-go. Again, I would be showing off that version right now if I hadn't screwed up how it works on my Steam Deck right now, because unfortunately, Steam Deck is going to Steam Deck. It wanted to be saved on the sort of primary hard drive. I wanted to move it to the SD card. It keeps kind of defaulting to the original save location, and I'm not entirely sure how to get it to not be dumb about that, but I'll figure it out at some point, hopefully when I don't have a cold. Anyway, that's about that. You'll have yourselves a good one. I hope this was interesting, or at least enlightening to some degree, because yeah, it's I think this game's great. I love revisiting it. It's so infinitely replayable, like many things that we cover on this channel. I know we don't cover a lot of survival horror, and this is, again, like, playing this thing solo with just your AI buddies and stuff like that, knowing that everything is kind of up to you, it's a very palpable sense of dread that you don't usually see in a lot of these games. Like, that you actively know that you are currently in the process of being soft-locked at any moment if you're not trying to progress, and a lot of times when you don't know how to progress, that can be a very weird feeling, which is, again, probably part of the reason that these weren't exactly the most popular thing in the world. But kind of going through and experiencing things differently with every scenario, experiencing that dread that's going on there, it's a very unique experience. All right. Anyways, I gotta get going. Y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care, and thank you for stopping by. Later.